When your phone rings with 30 unanswered emails, your body doesn't know you're just sitting at a desk. You might be late for the bus, but your nervous system responds with the exact same physical panic it would use to outrun a predator. We spent 40,000 years of evolutionary history relying on a fierce internal guardian, a tiger of survival biology. We survived by letting it hunt. But over the centuries, we fed it so many abstract, modern terrors that it has grown rabid with vigilance. Many of us try to befriend that beast. We go on retreats, we meditate for hours, and occasionally experience profound, quiet moments where the ego simply drops away and we feel at peace. But usually, within a few hours of returning to the supermarket or the boardroom, we crash right back to our old baseline. The body's sympathetic nervous system, that ancient fight-or-flight tyranny, reclaims the thermostat. This cycle of brief peace, followed by familiar panic, led a skeptic named Fletcher to ask his teacher a blunt question. Is a permanent state of peace, something the yogis call sahaja, even real? Or is it just a fairy tale for people who can afford to meditate 12 hours a day? The teacher's answer points to a mechanical truth. The external stressor, the ringing phone, is never the actual problem. The problem is the internal owner of that phone reacting to the noise. Looking at our source document, Sahaja Samadhi is defined clearly. It is not another spiritual peak to conquer, but the ground that remains when the idea of peaks is burned away. The text calls it the absence of any state. When there is no longer an owner, there is only a continuous, seamless functioning. The ring of the phone is simply the universe calling itself. You can think of it like the tiger suddenly purring in your lap while you answer those emails. The survival instinct hasn't been destroyed. You feel the purr, but you do not become the purr. Sahaja, then, is not an active practice you have to try and maintain. It is the moment the practice disappears entirely, and this rewiring becomes your new, unnoticed operating system. To understand how this works, we have to look inside the laboratory at what happens to the human body when the cosmic joke of a separate me is finally understood. In deep samadhi, the nervous system enters a profound parasympathetic eclipse, heart rate variability soars, and the default mode network, the neurological construct responsible for generating the feeling of me, literally goes offline. As this cooling vagal tone sweeps through the internal organs like a monsoon rain, dangerous inflammation markers like IL-6 and CRP plummet. Even your telomeres, those frayed candles of cellular time at the very ends of your DNA, stop burning down quite so quickly. The body is no longer treating every moment as a survival threat. Gamma spindles, intense, 40 to 100 Hz lightning storms of coherent awareness, appear on brain scans. These signatures are present during deep meditation, and they continue during mundane tasks, like chopping onions. The immune system stops acting like a paranoid militia. It behaves like a wise general, flaring up exactly when a real threat is present, and then standing down completely without causing decades of collateral damage. These shifts produce a human being whose resting heart rate can sit calmly in the low 50s, yet accelerate to a dead sprint when needed, all without leaving the toxic, greasy signature of cortisol behind in the blood. Fletcher eventually experienced a flash of this biology in action. In the middle of a heated argument with his publisher over deadlines, his usual tight jaw and racing heart started to rise. But then, something behind his eyes watched the whole ancient opera unfold and simply giggled. The argument continued, and the necessary words came out, but they were completely clean. Without the ego attached, there was no psychological residue left over. Sages from various lineages lived with this exact, effortless transparency. Ramana Maharshi lived, walked, and eventually died of cancer with the same internal stillness. The physical body suffered the illness, but the inner silence was never disturbed. In Sahaja, life goes on exactly as it did before. The hands type, the heart breaks and mends, but nobody is actually doing it. The body becomes a flute that the wind of circumstance simply moves through, which naturally leads to a paradox. If there is no doer to achieve anything, why should anyone bother meditating or practicing at all? Because for most of us, that tiger is still loose. Practice is simply the compassionate act of cleaning the cage until the cage itself dissolves, and the tiger finally remembers it was always just the wind wearing stripes. Sahaja is not the next step on the spiritual staircase. It is the falling away of the staircase entirely. One day you are climbing, and the next you are the mountain itself. To test this, look closely at this practice section. For the next 7 days, whenever you feel that familiar contraction, the ancient feeling that this is happening to me, don't try to dissolve it. Instead, ask yourself silently, who is aware of this contraction? Rest for 3 full seconds in the answer, which will not be a thought. Notice what happens to your physiology. Notice who is left when the tiger is simply a warm, quiet weight resting against your leg. That is the rewired human body. As the author notes here in their final sign-off, that is Sahaja Samadhi, spontaneous unity wearing your face, for absolutely no reason at all.